Well, they've done away with the maze in this film, but what we are certainly left with is the runners. People feel like they're running the whole way through this film from start to finish. So with that, a lot of it happens in the dark. So there's torchlight and flashlight being kind of flashed across the screen. So there's a lot of strobe lighting, a lot of very fast-paced editing and shaky camera work. Not quite as bad as the kind of handheld stuff, but near enough to make it a little bit dizzying at times. Now, the film is rated for violence, and yes, there's plenty of violence throughout the film. Most of it is gun violence, so there's quite a few, like quite a large amount of gun battle and gun scenes, shooting scenes. There's a lot of gunfire, particularly in the final scene, which is a battle scene where a small settlement, an outpost, is invaded by an air raid and a ground assault. And this is implied, it goes on for quite a while, so there is the implication of quite a few casualties from this particular event. In fact, the next morning you see bodies lined up, covered, awaiting burial, I assume. You do see quite a few different corpses through the film as people are shot and assumed killed. The gunfire ranges from sort of close range to mid-range to sort of long range. So, and like I said, there is quite a lot of it. People are shot with guns as well as with these kind of laser taser kind of devices which sort of latch onto the body and cause convulsing and electrocution. So in addition to the gun violence, there is a little bit of hand-to-hand kind of combat, punching, kicking, pushing, poking, tackling, wrestling and that kind of thing. But it feels a little bit more limited than the gun violence. So for example, someone will be punched once and then it's over. It doesn't kind of carry on like the gun scenes do. There is a suicide scene. One character, one of the fairly main characters, does commit suicide by gunshot. It is implied. We hear the gunshot, but we don't see the actual event happen. When all these people are running, they're either kind of being pursued by captors or they're running to escape some kind of disaster. So there's explosions or there's storms. There's quite a few sandstorms and there's electrical storm. In fact, somebody does get struck by lightning. They're also running away from these particular creatures called cranks, which are these hideous zombie-like creatures. They kind of look like a cross from something out of The Walking Dead mixed with something from Hellraiser. So they're quite hideous and ugly, and they're genuinely scary. They're very fast and very aggressive, and they go after our party of people that we're following quite aggressively. They do inflict a few wounds. In fact, the only real scene of gore in the film is where one particular character has his stomach ripped open, and a little bit following that scene, you see the wound. It's very open, very messy, and it almost looks like it's taken on a life of its own. It's moving and it's kind of gross. You also see a bite wound, again from one of these cranks, which is a little bit on the festy side. In terms of blood, there is a little bit of, not so much blood spatter, but you'll see bloody scratches, blood grazes, bloody knuckles, a bit of dripping blood in the shower from a wound. And you also see a woman is shot in the stomach and her clothing is very soaked, heavily soaked in blood. There isn't any sex in the film. There is one kissing scene and no nudity, apart from you do see a young man in the shower, but you only see him from the shoulders up. You also see a group of women at a party scene, which is a bit kind of incongruous with the rest of the film, but yes, there is a party scene. And these women are very scantily dressed, and there is the mild implication there that they might actually be prostitutes. Now, to gain entry into this party, two characters are made to drink some kind of intoxicant. It isn't clear what it actually is. It's a green liquid, and they start to react to that very quickly afterwards. They appear to be intoxicated and a little bit out of control. Their screen goes a little bit fuzzy and hazy, so you understand that they're not quite all there. And one of the characters begins to start hallucinating. He sees things that aren't actually there. Other than that, there isn't really any other alcohol. One character does drink something which looks like spirits, but that really is it in terms of alcohol and drug use. Swearing, the S word is used fairly regularly, and there is also the A word, son of a bee, and a couple of mild name calling. There is one obscene finger gesture and a religious exclamation. So Maze Runner, The Scorch Trials is directed by Wes Ball, and there is an ensemble cast led by Dylan O'Brien as Thomas. You can read my full breakdown and description of the Maze Runner Scorch Trials on cinemum.net.